Hello, my sales professional friend, and welcome to the 376th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. If you missed last week, we had Carson Cook. I will modify the title of his book in case little ears are listening, but it is the No Poo-Poo Sales Journal, a confident, common sense, and practical guide to sales. The dude's hanging out in Kathmandu and growing a business. It was an interesting story. He reached out to me, got my attention, and got on the show. So I think you'll like it. Go back and check out number 375. The next episode is a book review. And I won't even tell you the book because I'm not done reading it, but it's an old one. I'm taking notes. It'll be good, I promise. So stay tuned because I can guarantee you've not read this book. If you have, let me know. I'll give you some kind of goodie. I don't know. But let me know. And then today, though, we got Michael Fossi. He works for the company that has been sponsoring this podcast for the past couple of months. The company's called Rainmaker. They have a special offer for listeners of the Sales Podcast. You can head over to thesaleswhisper.com/recruit and see what that's all about. But we get into how the company started, why they are unique, how they are scaling. This is the third venture of the founder, another Michael, smart dude. And I've been looking over how they do things. They're smart to roll it out in a scaled fashion. If they are not in your city, and they're probably not, they're only in a couple of major cities now, but let them know. Go over to the website, let them know what city you're in, and obviously if there's a big interest, they can shift where they deploy next. But you're in for a treat just hearing that story because salespeople, I remember I had a CEO years ago, he said, sales is the straw that stirs the drink. And it's true. You know, we've always heard as well that nothing happens until a sale is made. You know, people don't do business with you for one of two reasons. Either they haven't heard of you or they have. So if you've got bad customer service, that's a whole nother issue. But if you have bad customer service, it is probably because you have salespeople running amok, over-promising, under-delivering, lying even, bringing a bad energy, bad vibe to the company. So make sure you have people that are representing you well, okay? And then make sure, so you're not getting a bad reputation, right? But also, are they getting the word out in a good way to help you grow? And the problem with a lot of companies is you don't know how to train your salespeople. Either you're the entrepreneur and it's your passion and it just comes out, or maybe you were a successful salesperson and got promoted. And now you're in sales management, and the skills, the attributes that made you a great salesperson, right? You're aggressive, you're impatient, you're a lone wolf. All those kind of things don't necessarily make for a great sales manager. So you got to get that squared away. That's why I literally started the Sales Whisperer. I was in training, working with Steve Clark. I had him on the show years ago, and I was watching the Dog Whisperer, and I remember Cesar Millan saying that he rehabilitates dogs and trains the owners. And I thought, that's what I do with salespeople. I rehabilitate salespeople that have been abused, that have had poor training or no sales training. A lot of times you have product training. You can regurgitate the story of the founding of the company, but that is not going to motivate your customer to buy. So I rehabilitate the salespeople and I train their managers because most managers haven't had good sales management training. And again, there's a difference. What made you great as a salesperson may not make you great and may actually hinder you becoming a great sales manager. So if you want to get great at sales, do what I did. In 2006, I enrolled in a program. Back then, it was a 12-week teleclass. I got a PDF and a weekly phone call, and it changed my life. Now I'm offering 30-day sales growth. It is ongoing. I'm adding a ton of content. I've merged the 30-day sales growth original program. I'm pulling in the Make Every Sale program. As I do it, I'm updating both, adding fresh content and new content in the group regularly, and I answer your questions as you ask them. So it's interactive. It's somewhat immersive. I'm going to start doing probably a monthly open line Q&A just to accelerate and enhance the integration and the learning. And if you order now, it is still a one payment deal, and you don't have to ever pay again. In the beginning of 2019, maybe the end of 2018, once everything is totally built out, it'll be built out before then, but I keep raising the price because I add content to it. It becomes more valuable. But then it'll become an annual subscription. So even though you may pay a little more this week than last week, you can take comfort in knowing that it's a one-time payment and you'll be grandfathered in. So take me up on it, all right? 30daysalesgrowth.com. If you're a sales manager, give me a shout. I do answer some questions in the 30-day sales growth, but you may be better suited for some private consulting. I've got a 90-day program, unlimited access to me. I don't take on too many of those at one time, so I can be available for you. But just go to thesaleswhisper.com, hit the contact us. You'll get a link to my calendar, and we'll talk about it and see if there's a fit to work there, okay? So now let's bring on our guest. Michael Fossi, all the way from the Bay Area. Can you really help me build your sales dream team, man? Is that true? But before you answer that, welcome to the Sales Podcast, man. How the heck are you?
I'm doing all right, Wes. Thanks for having us. How are you?
I'm good, man. So what's up with this Rainmakers, huh? Are you making it Rainmakers? Is that the idea?
That's the idea. We're essentially looking to build the premier marketplace to help hire top quality salespeople in a shorter amount of time.
So this is the founder is another Michael, correct?
Yep, that's right.
And he has had a few successful ventures. So people that have been listening to the podcast for the last few weeks have heard me talking y'all up. You're my first sponsor that I've ever had in almost 6 years on the show. So this has been kind of interesting. And, the more I learned about how you structure things, that's what piqued my interest. I mean, I've been in sales full-time since 97 when I got out of the Air Force.
Right.
I've been interviewed a bunch of times. I've had a bunch of sales jobs. I've worked for a bunch of companies that have hired a bunch of dogs. So how are y'all doing things differently? How did this come about?
Yeah. I mean, looking for the origin story, if you look at, just the past 10 to 15 years in recruiting, it's really been about the engineers. And we wanted to make Rainmaker.
Recruiting has been about the engineers?
Yeah.
Okay.
So at least with the platforms itself is what I mean. There's a lot of new tools that are coming out that have been really dedicated towards hiring top engineering and product talent. And there hasn't been any new tools outside of an agency or licensed LinkedIn recruiter that helps companies hire top quality sales talent. So we wanted to make something that was, one, dedicated to salespeople, and two, that was really helpful to companies in helping them identify what top talent looks like these days, especially in terms of tech sales. So we decided to create this marketplace model where the candidates are vetted for both quality and the intent factor. The companies are also vetted, making sure
quality and what?
And the intent factor. So when you look,
what is that?
So let's talk about, the challenges we're trying to solve on the business-to-business end here. There are three main pain points in recruiting, right? And one is the quality of candidate. The second is just the overall cost of hire, impact of the cost. And then the third is the time to hire. And the time to hire is actually two parts. This one is how much time are you spend sorting through resumes, looking for that right candidate. The other one is how long does it take you to fill a role? And if you look at sales roles specifically, for an average rep who's carrying a quota of, say, annual $750K ARR, having them not in seat costs you about $2,100, something like that per day, give or take. So every day that you don't have a rep in seat, it's actually costing you money and lost revenue. So when we go back to this intent factor, we actually want to put you in front of candidates that are actually looking to make a move and ready to talk. But the problem in recruiting in the past is that usually those candidates aren't the best unless you kind of find them on, say, LinkedIn, catch them at a time where they're actually open. So we kind of take care of that top part for you, keep them nurtured through our community. And when they are ready to actually look for new jobs, we put them live on our platform.
So you're kind of grilling them a little bit. I mean, how many that come into your ecosystem are not serious? How many don't have the intent? Is it 50-50? Is it most of them are serious, or most of them are not serious?
Yeah, I mean, giving you an exact number it fluctuates a lot, right? I think one of the benefits we have here is that they do talk to a person on their end as a candidate, right? They're called the talent concierge, and they work with them, one, to ensure that they have a good experience on the platform, but also to work with them to make sure that when they do go live, that they are actually looking. So we usually put the candidates out there when they're actually telling their talent, okay, yeah, this is the next 2 weeks. This is a good time for me to actually go live, put myself out in front of companies and start exploring opportunities. And they have actually a set of rules of engagement, right? Where if they don't respond to companies, if they're not actively, participating in interviews, we take them off the platform. So it is kind of a two-way street for us to work with the candidates and the clients. And the same rules apply to any companies that are working with us looking to hire us. They do need to be responsive if the candidate responds back to their request.
So it's kind of like an Upwork or something, right? Because it's funny, I put myself on Upwork because I saw somebody that I actually hired for a whole lot more than their initially what I thought it was, but it created the appointment and the dialogue and the interest. And I realized his model. I was like, man, this is legit. I was like, I wonder if I could emulate that. So I put myself on there, but I'm not on it all the time. So I'll get yelled at by Upwork. Hey, keep your profile updated. Respond to inquiries. Like, oh yeah, I probably should do that, But that's what you're doing, right? Make sure people are legit and staying on top of things.
Right. And I think the other thing that really helps with that is we operate in a batch system. So we only put out a select set of candidates, and they're only live for 2 weeks. So versus sites like Upwork or AngelList, you're live there constantly, but they do kind of reach out to make sure that you are constantly looking. We're only going to put you live for 2 weeks. And, whether or not you get a job, you have the opportunity to participate in additional batches. But that really helps with making sure that people are actively looking, right? They're only going to be out there for a period of 2 weeks. Companies have that set of time to come in and look. If at the end, they end up not finding something and want to go live again, they have that conversation with their talent concierge and we can put them live again. But it does kind of keep them constantly engaged so that you are working with candidates that are actively exploring new opportunities.
Yeah, that's cool. So the pressure's kind of on them. I mean, like when you go live with a batch, I mean, what's an average number of companies that are bidding on these people?
It ranges. We try and, match the amount of candidates into the number of employees that are actively participating. But, usually for a batch of, say, 60 candidates, it's around 40 to 45 companies that are actually looking.
Oh, cool. So how did this come about? I mean, like if somebody had an idea for something similar, I mean, not recruiting per se, but to launch, I mean, this is a new model, right? This is disruptive. This is, in a way, it's applying a process that maybe existed in other realms, but how did he raise money to do this? Was it bootstrapped? Because you're easing this out, right? You're in 2 major cities right now, and then growing smartly, right? But what was that first step? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, I joined after they came out of beta about 3 months ago, and up until this time, it's been pretty bootstrapped, right? We are, actively fundraising now, but, Michael has launched several companies before that were successful. He was able to do it, bootstrapped as well. So we've kind of adapted these techniques just to really work with a, small budget, but get our name out there. And I think it's just the team here that's been able to step up and put in a lot of extra work to help kind of grow our brand. We were able to get some pretty strong clients early on that wanted to work with us as kind of a, partner, right? And, give us feedback on the platform. and share any sort of questions, concerns, or improvements, and we listen to them, and building kind of that community around our clients that actually want to help has helped us to drive. They've made introductions to other companies as well, so that's been helpful.
How did you get the word out? I mean, when this is brand new, is it just cold calling and explaining the concept, and like, do you bring like people on like a beta or like at a discount? Hey, this is new, so we're going to cut you a deal.
Yeah, that's a good question. So most of our new customers were acquired primarily through outbound efforts, my team and myself, setting up email campaigns, doing cold calling. We've also been doing some content marketing, right? So talking about the recruiting process and sharing that, getting some leads that way. We've really stepped up our SEO, so that's kind of helped in terms of if you were to go to Google and type in sales hiring, Rainmakers is the number one thing that shows up on the Google search. So
nationwide or just in your cities?
It's nationwide, yeah. So that's been helpful. I think also,
how much does that cost? Good grief. Oh, man, that's awesome. You did it.
Yeah.
But, man. So that's organic.
It's all organic, yeah. But, we were looking at the conversion metrics just the other week, and it's been about 50% of the new companies have come strictly from outbound, 50 to 60. So it really just comes down to old school tactics of, finding a relevant email, focusing on who the point of contact could be, adding some value, and hitting the phones and getting a hold of people.
Yeah. Does it help that you are focused on just a couple of cities? So when you call, you're more specific versus like a broad national play?
Yeah, I think it is helpful. Ideally, we do want to go live in a lot more cities and really bring this solution to companies outside of tech as well. There's so much room to grow here. I think the reason that we launched strategically, first in San Francisco and then in New York, is to make sure that we were able to build a candidate pool that was relevant to the clients that we were working with. So launching a new market, technically we go after the clients first, and like you had mentioned, it's presented to them as a beta and early access to some of the first sets of candidates that we're going to bring out. That was helpful. And I think, New York, they're also really in demand for top sales talent in the tech industry out there. So this kind of took off right away. We were able just to get a lot of interest right off the bat and, grow our New York market pretty quickly, and got a lot of great candidates on there as well. So, the candidate acquisition team here did a great job in really getting the word out to the candidate side.
How did y'all determine pricing in the beginning? Because I worked for a short time in recruiting, and it was a similar model, but it was working with people leaving the military. And so we would have a conference, like a live conference every 6 weeks.
Sure.
So with veterans leaving the service, and I was on the company side, so I was trying to bring companies to the conference and saying, hey, you got all these qualified people. They have intent because they're leaving the service, right? They got to get a job. So you can hire right away.
Yep.
And there was a much lower fee, right? And so everybody saw the value in that. And so, but you're turning the pricing, the agency fee on its head, aren't you?
Yeah, essentially. I mean, if you look at most of the agencies out here, we're kind of in range with the price. We're on the lower end, but there's still companies that view it as similar to an agency pricing here. But where we justify the value in the fee is the fact that we could just scale much more largely than any agency could, right? If you work with several agency partners, you have a recruiter, they send over the resumes, maybe you get 4 or 5 a week. With Rainmakers, you're getting access to 60-plus candidates that are top quality. They've gone through the vetting process, and they're ready to chat, right? So being able to kind of continue to build that out and acquire more candidates because it's a software platform and we're not an agency, I think that justifies the value in the price.
Yeah, well, I mean, even being on the low end saves a lot of money.
Yep.
But you're doing this quicker, huh? Do you have any kind of stats on that? Like, are companies hiring, in 3 weeks versus 3 months, or?
Yeah, so I think the industry average for hiring a sales rep in San Francisco right now is around 42 days. On Rainmakers, the average time to hire is about 22 to 23 days. So you're kind of cutting that industry average in half. And if you looked at, amount that it's saving you in quota and all that, it's a lot of money saved, being able to, hire a good rep really quickly.
Yeah, because what did you say before? If they have a 750K quota, it's over $2,000 per day, and basically in lost revenue.
About that, yep.
So if you're saving them 20 days, what's that? $400,000? Is that right? No, $40,000.
$40,000. Yeah.
$40,000.
Yeah. So that's
still a chunk of change.
Yeah, I mean, it's helpful, right? So there's any argument that goes against the placement fee right there, right? People push back, challenge them a bit. If you're able to hire a rep in half the time and it's going to save you this much in quota, is our fee worth it? Usually the answer is yes.
Right. Or I got to assume you've got some repeat customers. I mean, they're coming back even in this short time.
Yeah, we've had several clients now that have made multiple hires with us just in our first year off beta.
Right. Yeah, and these are high. I mean, San Francisco, a damn dog groomer is probably making six figures. So, I mean, this is
it's probably right.
It's a high dollar.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a high dollar place. So, I mean, it's working there. If you can work it in San Francisco, New York, it's going to scale to Chicago and Houston and Des Moines. Right.
Yep, that's the theory.
Yeah. Cool. So how are you weeding out sales candidates? Are they cheesy, right? Are they slimy? I mean, I know salespeople get a bad rap, right? Yeah. But you know what? Most salespeople have kind of earned the bad rap.
Right.
Are they trying to manipulate the system and, you're able to weed these folks out, or are you seeing a higher caliber of people in general, gravitate to your platform?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, we do see a higher caliber of people coming to Rainmakers. I think they like that it's a site dedicated for them. Salespeople are very competitive and they like recognition. So just even getting into Rainmakers is kind of another badge of honor for them, right? Being able to fit out there, and we have a whole community built around it as well. So they're involved in the conversations and things like that. So I think they like it.
What do you mean a community? Because if I'm a salesperson, I might be scared if my name's floating around. I'm looking, right? I'm gainfully employed, but now I'm on this job hunting community site.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we prevent that pretty well by when a candidate applies to the website, they create a candidate profile, and on that profile, they're going to list their work history, right? And we're able to block their current and their actual previous employer from viewing their profile through the software system there. So that's helpful in terms of that, right? Candidates don't have to worry about, their resume getting sent to the wrong person or something and getting exposed. We keep their data private, and I think that's one of the more inviting factors. I think as a candidate, and, I've been on this journey before, if you are looking for a job, right, you have a couple options. You go work with an agency and, you get pushed kind of towards the ops that they think are a good fit for you, but you might not feel that way. You apply somewhere and you may never hear back, or you kind of wait till that right opportunity comes along on LinkedIn. Here you get to go live. You have companies reach out to you, and you get exposed to a lot of opportunities that you might not even know existed, right? So for the candidate, it's really exciting because, salespeople, again, they like having people reach out to them and tell them about the opportunities and say, hey, your skills here, the fact that you've hit, 120% of quota the past 3 years, that's something that we really like and want to chat with you more about. And then a candidate can say yes or no. So they're really finding the opportunity that's good for them as well.
So if somebody's listening to this and they're only in Houston or Des Moines, why should they continue listening?
That is a good question. We are planning to go live in a lot of new markets, right? We are launching based on the demand for sales jobs we have right now. So as long as the demand is there, we'll get there. Just stay patient, but that's our plan, right? Is we do want to become kind of a nationwide, even global solution for helping salespeople get jobs and helping companies find the right type of talent. So it's just going to take a little bit of time, right? But we've been live for a year, and we've had an extreme amount of growth. Some great logos working with us, and I'm confident that we'll be there soon.
Are companies hesitant to admit they're working with you, just to kind of keep it a company secret, so the competitors don't know where to find good talent, or are they happy to talk about it?
No, I think for the most part, actually, most of our clients have been willing to refer us to some of their others, right? And get a lot of companies coming to apply, saying that they had heard from a friend of theirs who was a head of talent that had been working with us. I think in the at least Silicon Valley and tech culture overall, it's always better just to share and build that community and talk about different tools at work versus being secretive and competing against one another. You never know when you're going to come across someone again. So I think a lot of people are really just offering different solutions in different recruiter communities, and this has been coming up a lot. So people speak highly of us and they want to share it. So it's quite the opposite.
Yeah.
Yep.
If I were them, I wouldn't talk about you, but hey, that's me. I don't want my competitors knowing my source of good people. Yeah. But I guess it depends how many you hire.
Yeah.
I guess once you're full, huh?
Yeah. That's another thing, right? So they might not even have any open roles. So who knows?
Yeah. So I got to imagine and hope that you're using your own platform to hire your own people, huh?
Yeah. We actually just hired a rep from our platform just the other week. So he's coming into his 4th week now. Very happy with him.
And are most candidates typically already employed and they're making a switch?
Yeah. For the most part, yeah. I mean, there's obviously a situational where they've gotten laid off due to a company losing their funding or something like that. But for the most part, candidates are actively employed when they're on our platform.
What's like a red flag you look for in a candidate?
Small stints at different companies. 6 months here, 5 months there. A lot of different kind of changes in role titles and things like that. No upward mobility, right? Somebody's just kind of been in the same job title for several years, just hasn't moved up. Things like that, I think, would probably be what we look for on the candidate side.
Do you not want like a career salesperson? Because, I mean, some people are like, you know what? I don't want management. I like carrying a quota.
Mm-hmm.
I like selling. Leave me the hell alone. Just let me sell. Stop forcing me into management. So is that okay? Or is that?
Oh, that's great. I mean, we welcome that. I think what I meant by that was, maybe somebody who just hasn't moved up market or moved into larger territory, hasn't upped their quota or their deal size, right, in a lot of years. They're just kind of selling the same
right.
quota, same type of deal. So, we really want people who are career salespeople right now. So individual contributors is our strong suit. People who can, continue to stay in the IC role. But that's what we want on the platform.
What about, is there a difference that you've seen between inside salespeople versus outside? And not necessarily an inside sales rep, but like somebody that's, like you, right? You don't travel. Right, you're in the office making the calls versus like a territory person.
Sure.
And is there a difference like between an intangible? So you're selling a service or even software as a service versus like selling, hardware, physical things to a company. Are all those salespeople built the same, or are you looking for different traits?
Yeah, I mean that's probably a better question for more of the candidate acquisition team, but I can give you some high level there, like what we're looking for. Right, is I think with the field reps, it's kind of how did they get there, where are they located, what is their average deal size, right? So when a candidate comes to Rainmakers, they fill this profile out, which I mentioned, but that profile is going to include what was their quota, what's their ACV, who are they selling into, what types.
What are you calling that? What was the acronym?
ACV.
Yeah.
Acquired customer value. So okay. Average deal size. Yeah. So
average deal size. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you get all that insight, right? So you kind of, as the client, you get to pick and choose who could be a good fit. So field rep or inside sales rep, I mean, all that data is going to be there, and you can just skip on to the next candidate if you don't think it's going to be a fit for the role you're hiring for.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, is it okay to make a change? Is it too risky? Do you want to see somebody like if I've sold software as a service, just stick with that person? And how much is experience a predictor versus their attitude, their demeanor? Are they coachable? Can you pick up on things like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit tougher, but just from a profile alone, right? This stuff you kind of have to pick up in the interview. But yeah, I think the coachability factor is always something to be desired. I think for the most part, what we look at too is maybe people coming from a different background. It's not, say SaaS or tech sales. Are they consultative? Do they have a sales process that they work with, right? I think most of our clients that are working with right now are really looking for people who can build and stick to a repeatable sales process that works, and they know how to have a consultative call, right? Can they run a good discovery call? I think most sales reps with that kind of background or that skill set, whether they've sold, SaaS or professional services or hardware or, pharmaceuticals, right? If they can actually dig deep, find pain points, it's relevant, right? And they can transition well into a tech and a SaaS role.
Yeah. I agree. Is there a particular model you like you mentioned the consultative, there's the challenger sale, these different things. I mean, in selling big ticket items in the enterprise space, is there a model y'all like or you like to see?
I think most of the companies out here really like to see people who've come from a Sandler background, right? The Sandler high-tech selling solutions, for the fact of the creating upfront contracts and, getting to those third level pain points and really knowing how to control a conversation. I think people, especially our clients, are really looking for someone with that type of background.
Right. And I follow a lot of the Sandler model. I just humanize it more. So, come to the sales whisperer, baby. All right. Can you send them my way, please?
Happy to.
I'll make them more well-rounded, not just be a jerk. All right. But yeah, Sandler, he was the best. I mean, that dude, it was a bummer because he died like over 20 years ago. But
yep,
that dude revolutionized things.
That's right.
So any hints on the next city?
Very cold winters.
Gotcha. Yeah, it gets really cold in Murrieta, California. So y'all are coming here, huh? That's amazing.
Sure does. Yep. That's our next market, Murrieta.
People are surprised. We get a lot of freezing days, man. It's I got to wear socks with my flip-flops. It's crazy, dude.
Yeah, I mean, 60 degrees is pretty much freezing for us Californians. So.
Oh yeah. Well, man, I will be up for my son's graduation. So it's over Memorial Day. Like, what the heck? But it extends beyond that. So I will swing by the office the 28th or the 29th, man. So if you call in sick those days, I'm going to know you're avoiding me, and it's going to hurt my feelings.
What are those dates again? The 28th? I'll mark it down now.
Yeah, 28th, 29th. We got to see the whole graduation schedule. It's kind of a packed schedule.
Well, yeah,
I'll be right downtown, so it'll be easy to swing by.
All right.
Cool. So any parting words of wisdom for our listeners?
Whether you're looking to hire top quality talent or looking to, explore new opportunities, come check us out. We're growing fast and we've created an excellent platform. So welcome everybody to come take a look.
Well, the other thing too, we didn't mention, even if you're listening and you're in a city that they're not in, go to the website, right? And I'll link to it in the show notes, but go to the website and fill out the contact us and say, hey, this is the city I'm in, right? Because obviously if you get, 5 a day or, 1,000 in a month from a certain city, you're probably going to go, oh, hell, maybe we should make that our next city, right? I mean, there's nothing holding you back from the cities that you pick, right? I mean, it's just other than what's scalable, where really is the demand, and that's where you're going to go.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Appreciate it.
All right. Very cool. Well, short and sweet. Michael Fossi all the way from San Francisco. Thanks for coming on the show, man. It's been great.
Appreciate you having me. Thanks a lot.
Hey, man, go sell something, all right?
Yeah, I have to, yeah. I'll talk to you later.
So a sales rep with a $750,000 quota, it's costing you over $2,000 a day that seat is empty. Probably costing you even more leading up to that seat becoming empty because they're probably coasting for weeks, if not months, even quarters before you get rid of them. So hiding from issues, ignoring issues will not make them go away. If you don't have good salespeople, address it now. You know, I love the old story talking about sales training that somebody said, oh, you know, what if I invest in sales training and my people leave? It's like, well, what if you don't invest in sales training and they stay? You know, you are not a nursery or a daycare. You got to make money. It means you got to have good salespeople. You have to have standards. You have to have protocols. You got to have systems in place that you have them follow. You got to have guidelines. You got to have a culture, and you got to make sure you get the right people on board. When you start applying new systems, new standards, it will rock the boat. Your existing people, some of them will get their feathers ruffled. This just happened. I had a client for about 9 months, and I was telling them, you know, you got issues with the salespeople. They were too nice. It's family-owned business. They were too nice. And I introduced them to a friend of mine, helps with recruiting, you know, around the country, and we helped them, right? We teed up a couple of folks, and sure enough, one of their existing salespeople quit. They didn't like the new standards. They didn't like bringing on new blood that was motivated. They didn't like the change in commissions. You know, the nice thing was the structure we put in place paid producing salespeople more money. It lowered their guaranteed salary and increased their commission. But a lot of people at this company, they had gotten comfortable. You need to have a business that is mostly, if not all, commission-based for your salespeople. Now, there may be some runway there, right? It may be 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year. I don't know, that you give them some type of salary. Maybe it's a very complex sale, high-tech, big ticket. And it takes, you know, you got a 6 or 9 month sales cycle. Okay, so give them enough to keep them hungry, okay? But that needs to slowly go away. And so, but again, it's tough implementing change. That's why you see like school teachers, you know, they don't let kids just run amok on day one. They're strict. They're almost mean, you know, and then at the end of the week, end of the first month, hey, y'all have been really good. So tomorrow you can bring a snack. You know, tomorrow you can play your video games. Tomorrow or today, the last 10 minutes of class, because we're ahead and you've all done so well, you can get your phones out and play a game, something like that, right? But you don't give them that ability day one because it only goes downhill from there. So how you recruit, interview, screen, test, onboard, motivate, maintain, retain top sales talent is art and science. If you're just winging it, then you're probably struggling, or you will struggle soon. I've just seen it too many times. You know, you might be lucky and be super small and you can just bop along and that's okay. But even the client I'm talking about, they're in a small town, but they're one guy. He also was commuting a long way, and that's a killer. If you have people that commute a long way, they're not as happy as they could be. They may be fine, relatively speaking, but they're not as happy as they could be. So you need to, at a minimum, recognize that you're vulnerable in that position to some degree, okay? Commutes are killers. But look at everything. And the great thing with salespeople is that we know for the last 50 or 100 years who the best salespeople are. Because it's not subjective. If I say, hey, who's got the best pizza in town? Well, how do you judge that? or if I say, who's the best architect in town? Well, you got some that have maybe the biggest office or the most staff, but do they do the best work? But when you look at sales, it's very easy. You can say, who has sold more Fords in Orange County in the last 2 years? Which person? You know who it is, okay? Because unlike life, with our kids and participation trophies in business, there really are trophies. They really do keep score. And so we know historically who the top salespeople are at different companies, at different cities, states, nations, continents. And they have been tested and assessed, and the commonalities have been discovered. And so when you onboard new salespeople, you can give them the same tests and see where they fall on that scale. Now, it's not a guarantee, right? But it does help. It does give you an indicator. It's a pretty accurate predictor of how that person's probably going to work out. So assess your salespeople. You're playing with fire. You're rolling the dice if you're not doing that. So you got to know how that works, all right? If you've got questions on that, hit me up. I do not personally do the assessments, but I work with several of the top assessments. And these things, some of them are pretty inexpensive, like $15 or $20. Some of them, though, you're going to spend a couple $100, and they're going to be very accurate. They're going to be very good. Okay, if you've got existing staff and you want to assess these people, check out my interview with Steve Sisler. Smart dude, really scary insights on what he can figure out and pick up on people. Man, it's weird. This guy's he's almost like a mind reader, but those kind of things do help. And I'll link to him in the show notes. But if you want to look him up, he was way back, episode 199. Probably need to have him back on. I think he came out with a second book. But check out episode 199. I've got links to him as well in the show notes. But get serious about your staffing. Get serious about being a leader. Okay? Assess these people and then come to me or someone you trust for some private coaching and consulting for new ideas. Somebody that does not have a vested interest in your business, does not have not making any assumptions, okay, not predisposed one way or the other about you, your business, your goals. And we can give you honest advice to help you take your business to the next level, okay? So hit me up, thesaleswhisper.com. My new webpage is up for keynote speaking, wesschafer.com. Please check that out. I'm adding more to that, but the homepage is up, the testimonials, reviews of some of the programs. So give me a shout. Let's talk about your event, and I'm happy to tailor my talk to your theme to achieve the goals, the messaging that you want for your people, okay? So if you can't remember wesschafer.com, you can remember hirethebestspeaker.com. A lot of people misspell my name. So check that out. All right. Thanks for listening. Go sell something.